So I'm doing right now is just erasing out all the areas where the light doesn't touch. Wow, I get a drink. So I think I mentioned this earlier in the other videos, which is think of light as water. Actually, Ryan Church, you guys might know him, told me about that a long, long time ago, and it really stuck in my head. Which is just treat the light as if it's a big giant bucket full of water, and you pour this water onto your canvas, and try to think what part of the water will touch, the main surface of your painting or design, and also if the water was to splash, where would it splash on? What surface would it hit? And that's a great way to think about light because light works very similarly. It hits an object, it bounces all over the place, but some areas like the back of an object, if you splash it onto say a cube on a top surface, the back or the bottom probably will never get hit by the water. So you can treat light the same way. So here I'm zooming out, and you can also see the Hollywood-ish lighting going on here. The kind of high contrast, complementary orange versus blue lighting. You see this a lot in games such as what's it called, Bioshock, right? Especially Part 2, they got a lot of lighting like this. So it's very kind of video game-ish lighting. Here I am adding some atmosphere fog to push the values further. The stuff in the back, we push them into the distance by adding fog. Because in real life, keep in mind that values that are further from you, further away from you, gets lighter. And that is a property of how light works. Excuse me. More water. Painting away. So line drawing at this point is I'm keeping it about I think about 50%, so that way I can start looking at the painting. If this painting was to go on for another say 3-4 hours, the line drawing will be completely unnecessary. We remove it very early on and just start concentrating on painting every single element. But for now, we're working as a global painting. We're kind of working all over the place, the background, the foreground, everywhere, to get the overall feeling down before we actually try to paint anything tight. So constantly check the black and white value. In this painting, I want the reed to be on the truck and to be around the bed area because that's the focal point of this painting. And also a focal point for the players. So if they are playing this game, they kind of see, oh, I see the truck probably has something for me to look at, and the bed area probably has something for me to look at. But then these pockets of light, see what I'm adding right now, upstairs, that's an area you can explore as well. So it kind of leads the player into where they should go next. Right, by putting a kind of artificial lighting in there, that upper balcony area, it tells the player that there's something you should probably go look at up there. So it all depends on the game, right? If you're doing, especially for consoles and these kind of games where you need to lead the player a little bit more, they're not ultra realistic. You have to control the lighting. Otherwise, players get stuck. They're like, where am I supposed to go? There's a little TV screen, using the TV to light up the bed a little bit. And then always erase out the leftover dodginess of the of the brush. So this kind of painting is different. If you watch the previous ones, this is probably the only one where we did a lot of dodging. I rarely actually use this brush, but because this was such a quick thing, it's a very easy way to light, I guess. But the result is somewhat Photoshoppy, not my favorite. But you can use this technique to do 3 or 4 of these paintings a day, so then you have something that's quite nice to look at, but done in a fast way, so you could get away with it. All right. The other solution is to do a very nice painting, but it'll take you longer time, without relying on this brush, that is. So this is very Hollywood. This is very Hollywood cinematic lighting. The blue from the outside, coming in, way more blue than real life, and then you got this hot, warm light interior in the interior section. So I think the first Bioshock game had a lot of lighting like this. Where it's very cinematic in a way, where you're kind of walking around and see blue light coming in and super warm light coming from the interiors. So this is sort of mimicking that type of lighting scheme. Controlling value. Most of this right now is controlling value because remember, value as far as how the light is affecting the scene. The first thing we did with the photograph was actually do the local value. And now what we do is once the local value is established, we then control how the light affects that local value. Right. So the best way to think of it is just think of a room that's completely lit up, and you put a white box and then a black box or cube into this room. And now you start dimming the light. As you dim the light, the white and black cubes will have different values to them, but the dark cube will always be darker than the white cube, right? No matter what, because of the local value. So same thing here. We balance the white and the black very early on without lighting, right? It's just not even considered. And then once you put the light in, we start to configure the local values individually. Hopefully that makes sense. So because it's something that sometimes our students here forget to do, which is the think of the local value. So if you have a white object in this room, it's always going to be bright. Like that truck that you see on the lower left, that's always going to be a lighter value than, say, the table where his workbench is at, because they're made out of different materials, and those materials have local value, no matter what the lighting condition is. So here I'm finally starting to paint some details in. You can see I'm zooming in here, some bottles, some reflections and things like that, but still quick. And at this point, because the local values are excuse me, balanced, you could then just sample directly from the values and start painting. There's this table with a gun on top, right? Bed sheets and all that kind of stuff. Sandboxes. So I like to just work everywhere, go around painting whatever I feel like painting, versus doing one section at a time and get it refined. And that just comes from working in the industry for so long, because if you concentrate on one area and the rest is not done, you always get those phone calls where they say, hey, you know what, let's wrap it up, we need to go to production with this painting. And you're like, oh dude, it's not done. They're like, dude, we have to go to production now. Then you show something that looks refined in one corner and the rest of it is not done. So over time you learn to not work that way. You work as a whole the whole entire time. So any stage, it looks like some kind of concept piece, right? Not one area is refined and the rest is messy. So it's always progressing at the same rate. So you can say, oh yeah, it's kind of loose right now, but it works because the entire thing's sort of loose. So that's just a little bit tip from the, I guess, especially if you freelance, you know. I think if you're working in-house, you have a little bit more freedom or time to do these. So because clients, typically when you freelance, clients don't like to spend their investment on a very refined painting, because they can always have someone in-house do it. What they want from you is generally the very early mood or establishing paintings, very quick, just to kind of set the color palette for the film or the game, and then some very quick ideas for some of the major designs. At least that's what I typically do. Establish the IP, get the team going, and all that kind of stuff, and then you're off the project, and then the full-time guys come in, and they could have way more time to paint and draw and design. So here I'm kind of just painting this gun, adding some details here and there. This painting is great if you blur your eye. That's when it's starting to work, right? Because we still keep the line drawing in there, but if you blur your eye, then the line drawing start to go away, and you can start seeing the values within this painting. So again, very Hollywoodish. So we try to show students every type of, I guess, painting technique. So some weeks we have kind of paintings like this, and the other weeks we have completely painted paintings without relying on any photographs. And then other weeks we do very loose start, almost like fine art when you start it, and then you extract the painting. So this way the students can walk away with, well, all these techniques, and they could choose whatever they works best for them, or a combination of all of them. Because the thing I'm trying to teach at my school here is that there's no one way to do anything. There's so many different ways to arrive at the final result, and you got to keep in mind that the clients who are hiring you, or the companies, they actually don't really care how you get there. So they just want good quality and fast. But don't ever copy or plagiarize. That will kill your career. You know, don't take something, especially other people's designs or paintings, and then paint on top. That's very bad to do.